Imagine this scenario. It's the dream, right? You've finally done it.
Mm.
You've signed the papers. You handed over the check. And you are now the proud owner of a property.
That perfect spot.
Yes. Maybe it's that charming, slightly crumbling, historic home in the city you've been dying to restore. Or, maybe you're a developer and you've just closed on a commercial space.
An old warehouse, or retail spot that's seen better days, something with potential.
Exactly. You can see the finish line?
Oh yeah, you can see the open concept kitchen or the new office layout with the exposed brick.
You can practically smell the sawdust. You've got the budget, you've got the contractor all lined up, and you are ready. But then you walk into the city permitting office and you hit a brick wall, a literal and figurative brick wall.
They ask for the plans.
They ask for the original blueprints, and you've realized, you don't have them.
The seller didn't have them.
The city archives are empty. And you're just standing there, realizing that your new building is a complete mystery wrapped in brick and mortar.
It's a surprisingly common nightmare. I mean, we tend to think of buildings as these permanent, well-documented things.
Right.
But the reality is, for a huge percentage of buildings out there, the data describing them, the blueprints, is just gone. It's fragile. It gets lost. There's water damage. Or maybe it was just, drawn on a napkin 50 years ago.
So you effectively own a black box. You can see the outside, but the guts of it, where are the load-bearing walls? Where does the plumbing run? It's all the giant question mark.
And that is where today's deep dive begins. We're looking at a stack of research on a firm called Conceptarchitecturaldesigns.
Okay.
And what's fascinating is that on the surface, they look like an architecture firm. But when you dig into their mission, they operate much more like, say, forensic investigators.
Oh, so?
Well, their core mission isn't just to design new skyscrapers from scratch. It's to go into these black box buildings, measure the current conditions, and then redraw the data.
Redrawing the data. I really love that phrasing. It sounds like they're hacking the matrix or something.
In a very real way, they are. They are taking the physical reality of a structure, the chaotic, messy reality, and turning it into precise, actionable architectural drawings. It's about problem solving. And frankly, it's about saving the client from financial ruin.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I think a lot of people, especially if they're new to renovation, they assume this is the easy part. You just walk in with a tape measure, write down 12 feet by 10 feet, and you're done.
Right, and that's where you get into trouble. The stakes are incredibly high. To really get why concept architectural designs exists, we need to talk about what's called the as-built void.
The as-built void. That sounds pretty ominous.
It should be if you care about your bank account. As-built drawings or measured drawings are exactly what they sound like. They are drawings of the building as it currently stands today.
Not what some architect drew in 1950.
Exactly. It's what is physically there. Because how many times have builders made changes on the fly? Oh, there's a rock here. Let's just move the pipe 3 feet to the left.
And nobody ever wrote it down.
Never wrote it down. Or a previous owner did a renovation without a permit in the 80s and moved a wall. If you rely on old plans, or if you just guess, you are designing a fantasy. And here's the kicker, and the sources are really explicit about this: the permitting roadblock.
The hard stop.
It is a hard stop. You cannot get a building permit without accurate drawings of the existing conditions. The city planner, they don't care what you want to build yet.
Right.
They need to know what is already there to make sure your changes are safe. Without that document, your project is dead in the water.
And you're just paying a mortgage on a building you're not even allowed to touch.
Exactly.
So Concept Architectural Designs, they're the solution provider here. They're the ones who provide the renovation roadmap.
They bridge that gap.
But I want to get into the how, because their toolkit seems like this really interesting mix of, the analog and the super digital.
It is. It's a necessary blend. You can't rely on just one or the other.
So the sources mention the basics, the trusty tape measure.
You can never fully retire the tape measure.
Oh.
No way. There's a tactile need to verify things by hand.
Sure.
But if you're measuring a 50,000 square foot warehouse or some complex historic home with all these weird angles, a tape measure is not enough. It's too slow and, honestly, way too prone to human error.
And that's where the tech comes in. We're seeing references to 3D laser scanning and drone surveys. Now, I see laser scanning thrown around a lot, but what does that actually mean for a building?
It's a complete game changer. Think of it like a sonar, but for light. They set up a scanner in a room, and it shoots out millions of laser beams. It's LiDAR technology.
Okay.
And those beams bounce off the walls, the floor, the ceiling, the pipes, everything. It measures the time it takes for the light to return.
And that creates a picture.
It creates what's called a point cloud. So imagine millions of tiny little dots floating in space that perfectly outline the geometry of that room. It captures everything with millimeter precision, every sag in the floor, every bow in a wall.
And the drones.
That's for the exterior. If you have a steep roof or a 3-story building in downtown Boston, you don't want to send a guy up a ladder with a ruler.
No, it's dangerous.
It's dangerous and it's inaccurate. The drone flies around, mapping all the roof lines and site conditions from the air.
So they harvest all this data. They've got drone maps, laser scans, hand measurements. But a cloud of dots isn't a blueprint. You can't just hand that to a contractor and say, build this.
Correct. And this is where the expertise of a firm like Concept Architectural Designs really shines. It's the translation layer.
Right.
And the sources are very specific about the software they use. Autodesk Revit and AutoCAD.
I hear those terms all the time. What is the actual difference, and why does it matter to, the homeowner or developer listening?
Well, think of AutoCAD as a digital drafting board. If you draw 2 parallel lines in AutoCAD, the computer just sees geometry. It sees lines. It doesn't know what they represent. Revit is different. Revit is BIM building information modeling. So when you draw a wall in Revit, the software understands. This is a wall. It is made of brick. It is 10 feet high. It has a specific thermal resistance. It's an intelligent object.
So it's smart data.
It's a digital twin. When they say they redraw the data, they're building a virtual 3D replica of the building inside the computer. And this lets architects and builders slice through the model, look at it from any angle, and this is crucial spot conflicts before they ever happen on site.
That is the aha moment for me. They aren't just selling drawings. They are selling a simulation.
Yes.
Because if you can see that the new HVAC duct is going to hit a steel beam in the computer model, you can fix it with a mouse click.
Exactly. If you don't find that problem until you're on the job site, you're fixing it with a blowtorch and a change order that costs thousands and thousands of dollars.
It's risk mitigation.
It is the ultimate insurance policy for construction.
But pretty 3D models are one thing. Legal safety is another. And this brings us to the authoritative side of the business. We have to talk about the alphabet soup of safety, IBC and IRC.
The International Building Code and the International Residential Code.
These sound incredibly dry to read.
They are incredibly dense, complex legal documents. They dictate everything from how wide a staircase must be to the slope of a ramp to the fire rating of a door, and they change every few years.
And Concept Architectural Designs, they handle the code review part of this.
They do, and this is a critical distinction. They aren't just drawing what is there, they're analyzing it against the rules. They handle code design research.
Why is that so important?
Because you can have a laser-accurate drawing of a staircase, but if that staircase is 2 inches too narrow, according to the 2024 code, you might have to tear it out during the renovation.
Oof. I was looking at their technical notes, and honestly, it felt like a construction pop quiz. They listed things like slab on grade stem walls, flashing cavity walls at sills, and ICF foundations.
It sounds like jargon, but every single one of those terms represents a major failure point if you get it wrong.
Let's break one down. Flashing cavity walls at sills. Why should a listener care about that?
Water. That is all about water management. In a brick cavity wall, water actually gets behind the brick. The flashing is the material that catches that water and directs it back outside.
Oh.
If you get that detail wrong on the drawing, or if the builder installs it wrong because the drawing was vague, you get mold inside your walls 6 months down the line.
And what about ICF foundations?
Insulated concrete forms. It's a specialized way of building highly energy-efficient foundations, but it requires a very specific type of monolithic pour. If you don't detail that correctly in the plans, the concrete could literally blow out the forms during construction.
So when they list these details, what they're signaling is, we understand construction physics.
Correct. They aren't just draftsmen tracing lines. They understand how a building is physically put together. They ensure the as-built conditions are accurate and that the new design rests on a solid, code-compliant foundation.
So who's actually hiring them for this? Is it mostly panicked homeowners with their fixer-uppers?
It's a mix, which is a very smart business model. They definitely serve homeowners doing additions and remodeling. But the B2B side, business to business, seems really robust. They list developers, builders, facility managers, and investors.
And architects. That one stood out to me. Why would an architect hire another design firm? Isn't that their job?
Not necessarily. Think of it like a surgeon hiring a specialist for the initial scans, the MRI.
Okay, that makes sense.
Many high-end design architects want to focus on the creative vision, the beautiful facade, the flow of the rooms. They don't want to spend 3 days in a dusty basement measuring pipes and documenting cracks.
So they outsource the grunt work.
They outsource the precision work. Concept Architectural Designs acts as a partner. They basically say, you do the art, we'll provide the canvas. It lets the design architects scale their business.
And looking at their project types, they seem to be all over the map. I saw as-built design residential renovation. Okay, standard. But then I saw a college dorm room theme in their 3D models.
It shows their versatility, but the commercial side is even more telling. Did you catch that specific restaurant reference?
The takeout pickup design.
Yes. Think about what's happened in the last few years. The restaurant industry fundamentally changed. Dining rooms shrank, pickup counters grew.
So restaurants had to retrofit existing spaces to change that flow.
Exactly. And to do that efficiently, to figure out how to squeeze a pickup counter into a crowded lobby without violating fire codes, you need a precise floor plan of what's already there. That's a perfect use case for their service.
They also list grocery store space planning and industrial.
Industrial is huge right now. I mean, think about the logistics boom. If you're converting an old factory into an Amazon logistics center, you need to know exactly where every single column is to plan your conveyor belts. You can't guess. The margin for error is zero.
Now let's talk geography. They're based in Memphis, Tennessee. We see mentions of Collierville, Bartlett, West Memphis, but they're not just a local shop.
No, not at all. And this is where the technology allows them to scale. They list hubs in Tampa, Florida, Boston, Massachusetts, and Atlanta, Georgia.
It's a pretty wide net.
Yep.
And those are very different building environments.
Yeah.
Building in snowy, historic Boston is nothing like building in swampy, hurricane-prone Tampa.
Right. And that implies they have a rigorous standardized system. Whether they fly a team out or have local partners, the data processing, the redrawing back in the office, it likely follows the same strict protocols. It allows them to deliver that same high-level service across different markets.
One other service note that I think really adds to this problem solver narrative is their focus on handicap accessible design.
Hugely important. This isn't just about being a good citizen, it's the law. The ADA has very strict geometry requirements.
Like ramp slopes and turning radiuses for wheelchairs.
Exactly. And retrofitting an old building to meet those standards has to be a geometry puzzle. If you have a historic building with a narrow entry, how do you fit a compliant ramp? You need precise measurements to even begin to solve that.
If you guess, you could be off by a tiny bit.
You might build a ramp that's 1 degree too steep, and you'll get sued and have to tear it out. They help mitigate that liability.
Let's talk about the company itself, because credibility is the currency of the construction world. How does this firm establish that they're the real deal?
Well, the headline number is 25 years of experience.
That's a quarter of a century.
In an industry where businesses fold every time there's a recession, surviving for 25 years is a massive badge of honor. It means they've seen trends come and go. They've seen the shift from hand drawing to CAD to BIM.
And they seem pretty confident in their methodology. I noticed they actually published a guide.
Yeah, how to do measured surveys for building design. A how-to guide published in 2024.
I found that interesting. Why give away the secret sauce? If you teach people how to do it, won't they stop hiring you?
I don't think so. I think it's the chef's cookbook strategy.
Explain that.
A Michelin star chef can publish their recipes. You can buy the book. But are you going to cook that meal perfectly for 200 people on a Saturday night?
No. I would absolutely burn the kitchen down.
Exactly. You read the book and you think, wow, this is complicated. I respect this chef even more now. I'll just make a reservation. Publishing the guide positions them as the authority. It says, we literally wrote the book on this.
Plus, the social proof helps. The research mentions 5-star ratings on platforms like Who's and Yelp.
Which really matters for the residential clients. Homeowners live on reviews. Renovations are stressful. Seeing that other people had a good experience, that lowers the anxiety barrier.
Speaking of anxiety, there was one detail on their website that made me laugh, but I bet it's a lifesaver. They advertise being available 24/7.
That is aggressive.
Is that normal? I feel like most architects don't pick up the phone after 4 p.m. on a Friday.
It is definitely not normal. But remember, they're B2B clients, developers, builders. If a construction crew is standing around on a Saturday morning costing $500 an hour because they don't know a dimension,
And they can't reach the designer.
that developer is furious.
So being the firm that picks up the phone at 7 a.m. on a Saturday is a massive competitive advantage.
It shows they understand the cash burn nature of construction. They're prioritizing the project timeline, and that wins loyalty.
So pulling this all together, we have a firm that combines old-school construction wisdom, 25 years of it, with cutting-edge laser and drone tech.
Right.
And they're solving this fundamental problem of the black box building. They're turning mystery into data.
Exactly.
What's the key takeaway for the listener here, whether they're a homeowner staring at a wall they want to knock down or a developer looking at a new acquisition?
The takeaway is that information is the foundation. We get so caught up in the romance of the renovation, the tile samples, the paint colors, but none of that matters if the underlying data of the building is wrong.
You can't design a future for a building if you don't honestly understand its present.
Precisely. Concept architectural designs essentially sells truth. They go in, strip away all the assumptions, and give you the cold, hard, geometric truth of your property. And that truth is what lets you build safely, legally, and efficiently.
So if you're sitting in a house right now with no plans, wondering how to start that renovation, you know who to call.
The sources list two numbers for them: 901-878-2129 or 901-654-7561.
There you have it, the hotline to unlock the black box.
You know, there's one final thought that sticks with me from all this. We're moving into this era of digital twins, right? Where everything physical has a virtual copy.
Right.
This firm is doing this forensic work now, going back and digitizing the past. But it makes you wonder about the lifespan of this data, the drawings they create today. Will they be the historical documents of 2125?
Well, that's an interesting point.
Or will the file formats become obsolete? Will Revit be as unreadable in 100 years as a floppy disk is today?
So we're solving the lost blueprint problem for now, but are we just creating a new lost file problem for the next generation?
Something to think about.
That is a haunting thought. Maybe we should print these out on vellum just in case.
Might not be a bad idea.
Well, on that note of digital existentialism, thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. Go measure something today. We'll see you next time.